It's the Brad and John Show.
It is the Brad and John Show. Today's date is July 2nd, 2025. This is the C block, the Charlie block, which means we started right around 7:45. I was looking at the wrong clock, almost said 6:45, but it's, I should say we started around 7:40, but I screwed up. We talked too long to Mark McCluskey, right, John? John, are you there?
Absolutely not. We could have had him on over the break and ask him a bunch of crazy personal opinion questions like whatever's going on in Pennsylvania and all these other topics.
Right. Well, the UPenn thing, we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay. First off, let me take a look. I'm sort of not super organized here, and you're going to laugh at me when I say that.
Have you written any more strongly worded letters in the last 24 hours, Brad?
I have, John. Matter of fact, I filed another one yesterday.
Okay, I was being sarcastic, but okay.
I filed another one yesterday. It's to the point where it's like Mark McCluskey is a dog with a bone. I'm a dog with a bone. Okay. That was I did that. Okay. Here's a good one. This is a article I saw yesterday, and the topic of this article is ex-DNC insider reveals puppet masters who ran the Biden White House. Have you seen this article?
No. So what are the names, and who are the whistleblowers there?
Okay, this lady's name is, hold on, I thought I had it highlighted. My phone just, sometimes when I go on these sites, do you ever have it where like you go on there and then a bunch of ads pop up and the story moves around?
Absolutely. I know how that goes.
Okay, let me see if I can find it again. Keep reading this article. I'm trying to. Okay. In a wide-ranging exclusive interview with Fox News Digital, Lindy Li, a former DNC fundraiser and National Finance Committee member, detailed her front-row seat to Biden's presidency and the people who pulled the strings behind the scenes. And she says, Biden is definitely complicit, but there were a lot of people behind him, like puppet masters. Former First Lady Jill Biden very much knew that she was what she was doing. And here's the quote, which vindicates what I'm saying. This is Lindy Li. What she did was absolutely elder abuse. How many times did I say that Jill Biden was committing elder abuse by not sitting down with Joe one night and saying, Joe, you know what? I love you. You're my husband. But you know what? You don't have it anymore, and you need to resign. You need to put Kamala in as president. How many times did I say that, John?
Time and again, Brad. You pointed that out time and again.
And yet the classic one, I got to pull that. I hear that on everybody else's radio station or their radio programs where it's after the ill-fated debate, which was, we missed that anniversary. I think was last week? Was that the 1-year anniversary?
Oh, was it that long ago?
Yeah,
wow. I believe it. Yeah, it was pretty much early to midsummer.
Right. And I think it was like I want to say the 23rd or the 24th of June. We missed that. But remember, after the thing, they had like a rally, and Jill gets on there and he goes, wasn't he amazing?
He answered all the questions.
He answered every question. Like that would be like if you had a kid who wasn't the sharpest in the drawer, and he goes in front of the teacher, and the teacher asks him 5 questions, and he answers 5 questions, but gets 4 of them wrong. The mom would still say, "Oh, my son's so amazing. He answered all 5 questions." Yeah, but he got 4 wrong. Well, but he answered all 5 of them. He could have been like my son Drew. I don't know if I told you the story or not. If my son Drew were here, hold on a minute. I'm on a roll this morning. Okay.
Call him, Brad. Let's get Drew on the line.
I'm going to call my son Drew. Hey, he's probably already at work right now. Let me see. If he's not at work already, he's getting very close to being at work, and he probably won't answer the phone because he's not allowed to use his phone at work. What a crazy place that is. Okay, let me see if I can get him here.
Can we institute that rule with you, Brad, on the air?
Yes. Okay, hold on. He's not going to answer. Watch.
Who?
Drew, it's your father. You're on the air, so no potty mouth, okay?
Alrighty.
Okay, we were talking about Joe Biden, and you came into the equation. Now, how did that happen, right?
I don't know.
Okay, my question to you is, remember when I used to go to your parent-teacher conferences, and they would tell me how you would turn in your in-class assignments, and what did you have in your in-class assignment that you turned in?
Usually nothing.
Nothing. Are you in the parking garage or something like that?
Now I'm in the stairwell now.
Oh, you're in a stairwell. You're going to work. Okay. So once again, you were a little bit vibrating, or the sound was vibrating off the walls there. So I asked the question again. When you had an in-class assignment and you turned it in, how many questions did you answer?
It was either nothing or as many as I could answer before the bell rang.
You're a little bit noisy there. One more time. What was the answer again?
Usually nothing.
Nothing. Okay, Drew. I don't mean to bother you at work. Have a good day. I love you. Okay.
What does that have to do with Biden?
Well, because of the fact that if you remember, after we talked about this, it was last week was the 1-year anniversary of the infamous presidential debate. And after the debate, Jill Biden had this press conference or like a rally, and she goes, "Wasn't he amazing? He answered every question." And my point was that he maybe not answered them wrong or right, but he answered every question, as opposed to my son, who answered no questions, right?
Yeah, never let them know your next move, I suppose.
Yeah, okay. Bye, Drew. I love you. I'll talk to you later.
Love you too.
Say hi to your mom.
Okay.
Okay, bye. That's my son, Drew. Literally. I could tell you a story about him. You know, what's so interesting? I have 4 kids. Same mom, same dad, okay? All 4 of my kids are as different as you know what. John, can I mention that you have multiple kids? Is that okay to say that?
I do, yeah.
And are your kids all different as well, too?
Yeah, they all have very unique personalities, for sure.
Right. Okay. My son, Drew, he's the nicest kid in the world. I mean, I got to clear my throat. I'm telling you, he's the nicest kid in the world. But there's a couple interesting things of him. He hates to work. I talk about the fact that he loves Bernie Sanders. He's talking about all the fact that one day Bernie's going to be president, or somebody like this, what was it, Zoran Madami or whatever his name is from New York. I keep sending him articles about that, and he keeps saying, "Well, I don't know about that."
I bet he's annoyed by. I bet you're not going to change his mind, Brad.
Oh no, he's a Bernie Sanders guy. And see, whenever we get into, I don't argue with him that much. Sometimes I have dinner with him or something like that, and we don't talk politics at all. But when it does come up, and he talks about the living minimum wage, I go, "Why not $100 an hour?" So he always gets frustrated with me. "Well, that's a lot of money." I go, "Okay, well, how about $1,000 an hour?" "Well, Dad, now you're just being ridiculous." "No, I'm not. I mean, come on, if you want a livable wage, I think $10,000 an hour is very livable. Man, I could live like a king at $10,000 an hour. But the interesting part about him was I have a problem. My daughter, who is like a clone of her mother, is like the perfect woman. She's like perfect student. She went to Mizzou, had perfect grades. She went to WashU Law School. She had perfect grades. She's an attorney now, and she's just like her mother. My sons are all like me. They're messed up. They're just really screwballs, okay? And all 3 of my sons, my oldest son never made it out of high school. He dropped out. He was actually forced out by a principal, but that's a whole other story. My middle son, I'm telling you, we had a tough time with him getting him to graduate from high school. And after my youngest son, the one I just talked to on the phone, I said to him, if I have to be at your school every day, I will show up there every day. You are going to graduate from this high school. You are going to graduate from this high school. And give me like, "Well, come on, Dad." I go, "No, I'm telling you. If I have to rent a room at the high school to follow you around to make sure you're going to your classes, I'm going to do it." So when I had parent-teacher conferences, I would type up this letter, and and each person, each teacher had like open house. They have the first night, that kind of stuff. And the letter would say, "Dear teacher, my name is Brad Hildebrand. I am Drew Hildebrand's father. This is what to expect from Drew Hildebrand." And I would give like 10 bullet points, and they were all, quite honestly, negative things. Drew will not do his homework. Drew will not do in-class assignments. Drew won't do this. Drew won't do that. And then at the bottom I said, what Drew will do. Drew is a wonderful kid who will always have a smile on his face, never cause any problems. He just won't do anything in your class. And I would give this to the teachers, and they go like, "Well, this is weird. I've never seen anything like this before." And I put my phone number and my email address. And almost every time, like 2 weeks after school would start, I would get calls from the principals or the teachers. "You know what? You gave me that sheet." And I thought to myself, this is really weird. This is some kind of a prank. You're exactly right. He's a great kid, but he doesn't do anything. And how many times did I have a teacher tell me, like in disbelief, We gave an in-class assignment. We handed it out, and Drew handed it back only with his name on it. And I go, yeah, that's my son. He just didn't care.
And was that, Brad, do you think, Brad, that was like a form of maybe just like non-aggressive rebellion? Do you think he was like, yeah, I just don't really feel like doing this. I'm not going to be a part of this.
He was bored out of his skull. And the one teacher that when I'd have these conferences with just the opposite, and it was so interesting, just the opposite. His facts teacher, back in the day, we would call that home ec. And I think her name was Mrs. Bear, if I'm not mistaken. She was some animal, Mrs. Wolf, Mrs. Bear, or something like that.
Some kind of animal.
And she raved about my son. Oh, my God, he's so good. And especially when they did cooking. Like, she would say, oh, he got his assignment done ahead of everybody else. And he was going around the room, and he was helping people with their this, and he's helping that. And oh, my God, he's my favorite student. He's so good. He's so wonderful. And there's 7 other teachers who would like, this kid's the worst. He doesn't do anything. He never turns in any assignments. He loved facts. And it was to the point where, because he was interested in that, it was something to do. He was somewhat challenged by it because he didn't really know how to cook, and the learning curve was steep, and it was something that he applied himself to, and he did great. So throughout his senior year, I would report back to his mom. And I would show up at school. I'm telling you, I would show up at school. I know I'd embarrass him sometime. I probably was there, I don't know, maybe once a week, just to poke my head in, just to go to talk to the principal. Had a little fight with the principal one time, but that's a whole nother story. Talked to his counselors. His counselors usually were pretty nice with me because of the fact that they were receptive to the fact that I was being a very proactive parent and really trying to get this kid on track. And I remember sitting at graduation. I think I might have told this story one time before. I'm sitting next to his mom and his other siblings, his 2 brothers and her sisters, and we're sitting there at graduation at the family arena, and his mom is freaking out because she is so sure that he's going to walk up on stage and the principal's going to go, oh, you don't get a diploma, like the soup Nazi, no diploma for you.
A last-minute denial.
Right. And it's going to be in front of thousands of people at the family arena that he essentially doesn't get his diploma. And it was so funny. He walks across the stage, she gets the diploma, and man, his mom about melted on the floor. Like, oh my God, he got it. He got it. It's done. So that's my youngest son.
But don't you think, Brad, that maybe, not to interrupt, but to interrupt, don't you think that maybe, so for example, he had an older sister who I assume got really good grades. You mentioned before she was really active in school activities. Do you ever think that Drew looked at the situation and said, I'm never going to top my sister for how well she achieved, so why should I even try? I can just go through life and kind of just do what I need to do to get by, and I don't need to try to supersede my big successful sister.
Remember how I said that my daughter was her mother and my sons were their father? Remember how I said that? This was me in high school. I hated it there. I absolutely positively hated it. And when I started college, when I started at SIU, it was like I had been reborn. It was like to the point where, oh, my God, I love this. And I think I've told the story before. I got my bachelor's degree in 2 years and 9 months. I mean, I literally graduated.
Yeah, and because you took a lot of summer classes, didn't you?
And I took because I got into Dean's College. It's the difference for me. I was a terrible high school student. In college, I did great. I was in Dean's College, got into Dean's College my second quarter. I think my grade point average, it was weird. SIU was on the 5 scale. I think my grade point average was like 4.7 or 4.8. I loved college. And then immediately I went for my master's degree. I was 22 years old with a master's degree. And I don't know if I told you this bizarre story. I started teaching at Flow Valley when I was 22 years old. I was a teacher, an instructor at Flow Valley at 22 years old because of the fact that I had a master's degree. And to the point where I just loved, I loved my field. Because of the fact that I was able to go through Dean's College, a lot of my general studies classes were waived, and I took in-depth classes in my major. I think I took more major classes than anybody took because I had the ability to, because of the fact I didn't have all the stupid general studies classes. I was taking 300 and 400 level classes in my freshman year, in my field of study, and I just ate it up. I couldn't get enough of it. I loved it. And it was like a 180 because high school was like torture, And like college was like freedom, where I could learn and I was challenged by my professors and I was in uncharted territory because I was, out on my own. I didn't have to worry about checking in with my mom and stuff like that. I had a job. I was working for the police department. I was also starting my career in the radio business. I was working at KSOQ. It was just like I was in nirvana, and it was just a wonderful period of my life, and and the crazy part of it is I've never told this story before, John. Give me another minute. I never told this story before. I didn't party. I didn't do anything of that because of the fact that I worked for the police department, had a real good job, didn't want to get in trouble. No drugs, no alcohol, never in my college years, not one single time, never. And then I graduated with my master's degree, and then I started in my field, and I got a job full-time job at KSOQ. And all of a sudden, one day I woke up and I thought to myself, I've missed all the things that my friends had. I missed all the things that my buddies had at the fraternities at Mizzou and sororities at Mizzou and all the college life and all this partying stuff like that. So at the age of 23, it's a true story, I'm not kidding, I applied to Mizzou as a freshman. And I did not list the fact that I had a bachelor's and a master's degree. I applied as a 23-year-old freshman, and I had to send my high school transcripts to get admitted to Mizzou, and I got admitted, but I never went. Is that weird or what?
That's incredible. And think of what would have happened. Think of how many delightful hangovers you could have had at Mizzou, Brad.
How many stories I'd be able to tell.
How many keg stands and how many goalposts you could have taken down the Harpos had you gone to Mizzou.
Right. You got it. Okay, John. Boy, what a show. Mark McCluskey.
What a great show, Brad. And I will see you tomorrow on Thursday.
John, I want you to use the B word for the show.
It was a banger.